Progress is being made in Connecticut. A new zoning law was recently passed, Public Act 21-29, that boosts enforcement of existing zoning statutes that towns have routinely ignored. The statute also includes new methods for increasing affordable housing. But there is resistance. Some towns fear the state is taking over local control, but zoning authority rests with the state, who delegates authority to the towns under state regulations and guidelines. You can look up the General Statutes, Chapter 124, Section 8, and see a rather lengthy list that zoning commissions are supposed to follow. These statutes give some flexibility, enabling towns to modify them to fit local conditions. One concept is as of right. As of right means the Planning and Zoning Commission does not need to approve the development. Private homes are an example. The idea is to create more instances where developments can be built as of right. One example is an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU. An ADU is a self-contained, independent living space that might be for family members or be a long-term rental for someone unrelated. ADUs are environmentally friendly because they increase housing density to preserve woods and farmland. Because ADUs must be smaller than the main house, they are less costly to build and rent. To build as of right, the structure would need to conform to the standards that each town establishes for itself in advance. Professionals in the planning office would verify that you've checked all the boxes. The Health Department and Wetlands Commission would also need to approve the plans. The only time the Planning and Zoning Commission becomes involved is if the builder asks for an exception to the preset standards. If a proposal is not as of right, the Builder and Planning and Zoning Commission might have to meet several times with the applicant to iron out concerns raised by the commission. With each iteration of the proposal, architects need to redraw plans. Lawyers and engineers would need to charge for their time for each meeting with the commission. Each iteration costs time and money. By establishing clear standards in advance, as-of-right developments can fit the town's character and plans for growth and be more affordable. In June, towns submitted their plan to increase affordable housing from 2 to 3% average across the state to 10% of the housing stock. It might be better to call it workforce housing because it makes it affordable for employees to live in the town where they work. About 78% of people that work in Guilford live out of town. Of those, some cannot afford to live in town, even though they might like to. It would be desirable for our teachers, police, firefighters, those who work in our local businesses, and so on, to be part of the community. Affordable housing is defined as a percentage of area mean income, or AMI. Housing costs, rent or mortgage plus utilities, is restricted to 30% of income. Eligible applicants have incomes below a percentage of AMI, typically set somewhere between 60 and 80%. To count towards the 10% affordable housing goal, the housing has to be deed restricted. That is, you can't buy a house at reduced price and then turn around to sell it at market rates. The restriction can be set for up to 40 years. Besides affordable or deed-restricted housing, the housing stock for all price ranges needs to increase. When the wealthy can't find luxury housing, they bid up the price of middle-income housing. In turn, people with mid-level incomes bid up the price of low-income housing, which means some folks can no longer afford to live in town. A housing assessment for Guilford was performed by the South Central Regional Council of Governments, which includes much of New Haven County. It has been studying the problem of affordable housing by doing demographic studies and bringing towns together to share their approaches and brainstorm a way forward. They are the ones who revealed how the influx of wealthy residents exacerbated the housing shortage by paying more than the asking price for all levels of housing. 90% of the housing stock is for single-family homes in Guilford, and 7% is for 2 to 9 unit buildings. There is a desire to develop transportation-oriented communities, and grant money is available to foster this kind of development. The idea is that by increasing housing density around public transportation and local businesses, walking about town would be encouraged, which would reduce the use of cars and foster a sense of community. Transportation-oriented communities would benefit businesses who would see more foot traffic visiting their shops, public transportation by increasing ridership, public schools by filling seats in the underpopulated schools found in many Connecticut towns, including Guilford. It would help elderly who wish to downsize and limit the use of their car. The availability of affordable housing would allow them to stay in the region. It would also help our young who would like to stay in the region to start their families and careers. The community would benefit from the racial and cultural diversity that minorities would bring, if only they could find affordable housing. One concern is about the streets that might not be able to handle the increase in traffic. However, transportation-oriented communities would favor the use of public transportation and the ability to walk or bicycle to do business in town. So what's going on in Guilford? As I mentioned before, towns had to submit an affordable housing plan last summer. Guilford's plan focuses on increasing multi-unit housing along the Route 1 corridor and the area between the train station and Route 95, which includes the area surrounding the town green. The units would be near public transportation, and many would be within walking distance of stores. In Guilford's case, development near the train station is limited by a floodplain. The Housing Committee is organizing an effort to solicit feedback and ideas from the public to flesh out this plan. This will be a multi-year project, so there's plenty of time to get involved in shaping the plan. There are 3 affordable housing developments already in progress here in Guilford. One of them is near the train station. Another is an 830G development. This statute allows a residential complex to be built in areas not zoned for that use. In return, 30% of the units must be affordable and deed restricted. Towns are learning it's better to negotiate with the developers rather than fight the project. Such court battles are costly, and the rate of success is very low. Once a town increases its affordable housing stock to 10%, they need not accept 830G proposals. The desegregatect.org website provides background, lobbying efforts for specific proposals, a calendar of events for public meetings in each Connecticut town, and action items to help you make your voice heard.